The forest was quiet, too quiet. The air was heavy, the wind still. Leaves didn't move. Birds didn't sing. Only the soft sound of breathing came from the small cave, hidden behind thick green vines. Inside, an alien mother held her baby close to her chest. Her name was Sarah. She had been running for days. Sarah's kind was hunted, seen as dangerous, wild, unwanted. She had once lived in a large city, far from this place. But after war broke out, she became a target. Her daughter, only weeks old, was all she had left. Her mate had been taken. Her friends gone. Now the hunters were getting close. Sarah's purple skin was stained with dried blood. Her long hair stuck to her neck with sweat. Her side, still, burned from an earlier fall, but she couldn't stop. She couldn't let them find her child. The baby whimpered, and Sarah quickly held her tighter, whispering softly, "She." "Little star, stay quiet." Then a sharp sound. A rustle outside. A twig snapped. Her eyes widened. They had found her. Before she could move, the cave's entrance exploded in light. 3 figures stood outside, dressed in armor and holding sharp metal bows. One of them pointed at her and shouted in a strange language. She didn't understand all the words, but she knew the meaning. Give up. She backed into the wall, pressing her body over her baby, ready to die if she had to. Then the arrow came. It flew fast, faster than she could think. It hit her just below the ribs. The pain was sharp and deep. She didn't cry out. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction. She fell over her baby, shielding her, coughing blood as she tried to breathe. Her vision blurred. She was falling into darkness when she saw something strange. A 4th figure entered the scene, but not from the enemies' side. He came from the shadows of the trees, fast, silent. His skin wasn't blue or red like the hunter's. It was human. He held something in his hands, a metal stick. No, a weapon. Before the hunters could react, the human fired. A loud blast echoed through the forest. One hunter fell instantly. The others turned and shouted, trying to run. Another shot. The second one dropped. The last fled into the trees, screaming for help. Then silence returned. Sarah's breath was shallow. Her arms wrapped around her baby. Her eyes were half closed. But she saw him, the human, walking toward her. He knelt beside her. His face was young, serious, covered in dirt. His eyes were kind but alert. He gently pulled the arrow from her side and placed pressure on the wound. "You're safe now," he said softly, not knowing if she could understand. She didn't move. She didn't speak. But she heard the words. Safe? Was that even possible? Any more? The human looked at the child, then back at her. "I'll help," he said. "Just hold on." He worked fast. He pulled herbs from his pack, wrapped the wound, and gave her water. She was slipping in and out of sleep, but she felt his hand strong but gentle. The baby cried again, hungry and scared. The human hesitated, then pulled a small food packet from his jacket. It wasn't made for alien children, but he had to try. He dipped his finger in the liquid and touched it to the baby's lips. The child calmed. Just a little. He smiled. Hours passed. Night came. The forest grew colder. The human made a small fire in the back of the cave, using a heat crystal that gave warmth but no smoke. Sarah woke in pain, but the fire comforted her. Her baby slept on. Her chest. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak. He noticed. "You need rest," he said. "I'll watch the cave. No one will hurt you again." She stared at him, unsure what to feel. Why was a human helping her? Why didn't he walk away like the others had? Her people had feared humans. They said humans were violent, selfish, cold. This one had stepped in when no one else did. He had saved her baby. She didn't even know his name. Outside, the forest stayed quiet, but danger still lurked. The surviving hunter would bring others. Sarah knew this, and the human did too. But for tonight, she wasn't alone. And that thought, for the first time in days, gave her a strange feeling. Hope. Asterisk, the fire burned low. The baby breathed softly, curled against her mother's chest. Sarah opened her eyes slowly. Pain tugged at her ribs, but it wasn't sharp anymore. Her fingers touched her side and felt the rough bandage. She looked around, confused. The cave was still there. The fire was still warm. The human was still there. He sat at the entrance, back against the stone, a strange weapon across his lap. He hadn't slept. Not even for a second. Sarah didn't. Understand, he had saved her life. He could have left after that. He owed her nothing, but he stayed. She tried to sit up, but winced in pain. Her groan caught his attention. "You're awake," he said softly, turning toward her. "That's good." He reached for a bottle and held it out. "Water. You need it." Sarah stared at him. His words were clear, but her trust was not. Still, her baby stirred, and she knew she needed strength. She took the bottle with shaking hands. He helped her hold it steady. The water was cool and tasted like earth, but it gave her energy. She watched him closely. He didn't look like a soldier. His clothes were dirty, his face unshaven. But there was something in his eyes, a calm strength. "Name's Cole," he said, as if offering more than just words. "I'm not with them." Sarah blinked. Them? "The hunters," he explained, nodding toward the forest. "I saw what they were doing. I couldn't ignore it." She wanted to ask why, but her throat was too dry for more words. Later that day, he boiled some roots near the fire and offered her a small piece. It smelled bitter. She didn't move. "It's safe," he promised. "Tastes like trash, but it'll help you heal." Sarah took it. She didn't say thank you. But in her eyes, something shifted. The baby cried again, louder this time. Cole looked nervous. "She's hungry again, isn't she?" Sarah nodded weakly and adjusted the child. In her arms. She tried to nurse, but her body was still weak. Tears formed in her eyes as the baby whimpered and refused to feed. Cole sat beside her and opened a small pouch. "I don't have much, but I have some protein gel. It's meant for emergencies." He poured a little on his fingertip and gently touched the baby's lips. To their surprise, the baby sucked it. He laughed quietly. "Well, at least she's not picky." Sarah looked at him again. A human, feeding her child, caring for both of them. Why? Night came fast. Thunder rolled in the distance. A storm was coming. Cole pulled a blanket from his bag and gently placed it over Sarah's legs. "You're safe." "Here," he said again. "I'll keep watch." She looked at him through tired eyes. "Why? Help?" she asked softly. It was her first word to him. He looked at her, surprised but glad. Then he spoke the truth, because no one else did. He stared into the fire, voice low. "I saw you fall. I saw the arrow. I saw you cover your baby like she was the last thing in your world. And I thought, that's what a real fighter looks like." I couldn't walk away. Sarah felt something stir in her chest. Something unfamiliar. Not fear, not anger, not survival, but trust. In the middle of the night, Sarah woke with a gasp. Voices. Not Cole's. Rough voices in the distance. Faint but clear. The hunters had returned. Cole was already up, his weapon ready, body tense. "They're looking," he whispered, "but they won't find us. I covered the tracks." Still, Sarah held her baby close, her heart racing. Cole knelt beside her. "If they get too close, I'll lead them away." "You stay hidden, all right?" "No," Sarah whispered. "You stay." Cole paused. Ben nodded. I'll stay. He could have run. He could have escaped alone. But instead, he chose to stay. Beside the alien mother. Beside the child. In a cave with little food. In a war not his own. Because sometimes being human means more than blood or species. It means choosing to protect those who can't protect themselves. And that night, as the storm rolled in, Sarah finally closed her eyes. Not in fear, but in peace. Because for once in a long, long time, she wasn't alone. The baby cried. Just once. Just one soft, tired sound. But in the silence of the forest, it was enough. Cole's eyes snapped open. He had barely slept, sitting upright near the mouth of the cave, weapon resting across his knees. The fire had died down to a warm glow, casting long shadows across the cave walls. Something felt wrong. He stood slowly, motioning for Sarah to stay down. She was already awake, her hand over her child's mouth, trying to soothe the little one without a sound. Then they heard it. Crunch. A twig. Close. Cole moved silently to the edge of the cave and peered out. Figures. In the trees. 3. Maybe 4. Dressed like the ones from before. Masks covering their faces, eyes glowing faintly. Their movements were slow and careful. Trained. They were tracking again. They're back, Cole whispered. And this time, they know where to look. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. She looked down at her baby. Then at Cole. What do we do? She asked. Cole didn't answer right away. His eyes scanned the forest. He counted every shadow, every step. Then he spoke. We run. But they couldn't run far. Sarah's wound was healing, but not fast enough. She couldn't carry her child. And move quickly. Cole thought for a second, then opened his backpack. I made something last night, he said, pulling out a folded sling. It's a back carrier. I can carry her and your baby. Sarah looked hesitant. Her arms tightened around the child. Cole didn't argue. He just looked her in the eyes and said, I won't let anything happen to her. She studied him, then slowly handed the baby over. For the first time, she was trusting him completely. He carefully placed the child against his back and tied the sling snug. The baby rested her cheek on his shoulder, eyes wide but calm. Sarah clutched the cave wall, using it for balance. Together, they slipped into the forest, staying low, moving in shadows. The woods felt alive with danger. Every step was slow. Every leaf underfoot felt too loud. Sera whispered, I know these woods. There's a river close. Hunters avoid it. Why? Cole asked. They fear the mist, they say. Spirits live there. Cole raised an eyebrow, but nodded. Good. Let's go to the spirits then. They moved quickly, taking a narrow path down a rocky slope. Behind them, a voice called out. They went this way. Cole cursed under his breath. He turned and aimed his rifle. Keep going. I'll hold them off. No, Sarah grabbed his arm. You said we stay together. Cole hesitated. The baby moved gently on his back, as if sensing the tension. Then he nodded. Okay, together. They reached the river. Mist curled across the water like ghostly fingers. Strange sounds echoed from the trees, howls, whispers, things neither human nor alien could explain. The hunters stopped at the edge, there. Feet unwilling to step forward, Cole and Sarah crossed, slowly, carefully. The water was cold, rising to their knees, but they kept going. One hunter tried to follow. A loud snap rang out. He screamed, then vanished into the mist. Sarah turned away. The forest protects itself. By morning, they found shelter under a stone outcrop. It wasn't much, but it was dry. Cole lowered the baby into Sarah's arms. She was safe, still warm. Still alive. Sarah looked at him. "You didn't have to stay," she whispered. "You could have left me." Left her. Cole wiped sweat from his brow. "Yeah, I could have." He sat down beside them, tired but alert. "But I didn't." They were still in danger. More hunters would come. The war wasn't over, but something had changed. Sarah no longer looked at Cole with fear in her eyes. Now, there was something else. Respect. Trust. Maybe even something deeper. And the baby? She reached for Cole's shirt with her tiny hands, as if to say, "He's one of us now." Morning light broke through the forest canopy like gold spilled across the leaves. Sarah's eyes blinked open. The ache in her ribs was still there, dull but steady. Her baby lay curled in her arms, breathing softly. She looked to the side. Cole wasn't sleeping. He was cutting strips of bark into rope, his weapon resting nearby, always ready. "You don't sleep." "Much," Sarah said, her voice barely above a whisper. He looked up, smiled faintly. "I can sleep when we're safe." That word again, safe. It sounded strange in her mouth. It had been so long since it felt real. But here, beside this human who kept his word, Sarah was beginning to believe it again. Later that morning, she touched the cave wall and slowly pulled herself up. Cole saw her try. "Easy," he said quickly, reaching out to help. She waved him off. "I have to move again. I can't stay weak." She took one step, and another. Pain burned in her side like fire licking her skin. A third step, her legs gave out, but Cole caught her before she hit the ground. She didn't expect to land in his arms. He didn't expect her to stay there a moment longer than needed. Their eyes met. No words. Just breathing. Close, real. "I'm not your burden," she said quietly, her pride still alive under the bruises. "I don't carry burdens." Cole replied, "I carry what matters." At afternoon, Cole helped her practice walking, one arm around her shoulders, her feet shaky on uneven ground. "You walk like you're angry at the earth." He joked. She let out a small laugh. "Maybe I am. Good. Anger keeps you moving." His baby fussed. Sarah sat to feed her, and Cole turned away, giving her space. When she finished, Sarah asked the question she had been holding inside for days. "Why were you here, Cole?" "In our forests? No humans live this deep." He didn't answer right away. He stared into the trees. "I was supposed to fight," he said at last. "But when I saw what the war was really doing, how they chased mothers with babies, I walked away." He paused. "They called me a traitor, a coward." Sarah tilted her head. "They were wrong." He looked at her, surprised. "My people ran too. Sometimes surviving means walking the other way." They kept moving through the forest together. Slowly, carefully. Cole supported Sarah when her legs failed. She held the baby while Cole built a stretcher for supplies. They moved like a small family, not by blood, but by something deeper. Something earned. That evening, they reached a small waterfall. Clean water rushed down smooth stone. Birds chirped above. The air smelled like life. Cole let the baby splash her hands in the water, while Sarah smiled. A real smile, the kind that had been gone for weeks. "Her name is Nira," Sarah said softly. Cole looked at the baby, then at Sarah. "It's beautiful. She's all I have left." Cole looked away for a moment. Not anymore. Night returned, quiet and gentle. They built a small camp beside the falls. Firelight danced across their faces. Cole cooked something warm, something that almost tasted like soup. Sarah watched him move. He wasn't like anyone she'd known. Not alien, not perfect, not fearless, but he stayed. When others ran, when it was hard, when she had nothing to give. Back, he stayed. That night, as the baby slept between them, Sarah whispered something he didn't expect. You're more than human to me now. Cole blinked, unsure how to respond. He reached out, gently squeezed her hand. I'll walk as far as you need me to. Asterisk, the forest had grown too quiet again. Cole didn't like it. He stopped walking, raising a hand to signal Sarah to do the same. The air felt tight, like it was holding its breath. Even the birds had gone silent. Sarah whispered, "What is it?" He didn't answer. He just listened. Then he heard a soft crunch behind him. Too heavy for an animal. Too slow for a friend. His body moved before thought. He grabbed Sarah's arm and pulled her behind a thick tree. She clutched baby Nira tightly, covering her mouth so the child wouldn't cry. And then an arrow struck the tree where Sarah had just stood. They were being hunted again. They found us. Cole muttered dot. He pulled his rifle up and scanned the forest. 2 hunters, moving fast. One flanked left. The other straight on. Cole aimed and fired one down. But the second arrow was already flying, straight toward Nira. Time slowed. Sarah screamed, and Cole moved. He jumped in front of her, arms wide shielding both mother and child. The arrow struck dot hard, dot right, into his shoulder. He didn't fall immediately. He stumbled back, gritted his teeth, and raised his weapon again. With one hand, he fired. A second hunter dropped, and Cole collapsed to one knee, the arrow deep in his flesh. Blood spilled fast. Sarah ran to him, eyes wide with shock. No, Cole. He chuckled weakly. Hey. Still breathing. She tore a strip from her cloak and pressed it against his wound, her hands shaking. You're bleeding too much. I don't know how to. You're doing fine, he whispered. Don't stop. Nira reached out from her wrap and touched his face with her tiny fingers. He smiled. They moved fast, Sarah guiding them back to a small cave she remembered from childhood. The forest was still dangerous, but they needed shelter. Cole was fading. His skin turned pale, sweat soaking his shirt. Inside the cave, Sarah laid him down. She had no healing tools, no tech, nothing but old knowledge, dot, and love. She worked through the night cleaning the wound, stitching the skin with thin vines, using crushed roots to stop the fever. He groaned in pain, but he never told her to stop dot when morning came. He was still alive, dot weak, dot but. Alive. Sarah held his hand and whispered, Why did you do that? He opened his eyes slowly. For her. He looked at Nira sleeping beside them. And for you. She couldn't stop the tears. I was supposed to protect her, she said. Not you. You did protect her, he said. You kept her warm. You kept her alive. I just took one hit. You took all of them before me. Sarah leaned closer, her forehead resting against his. Thank you, she whispered. Cole drifted in and out of sleep over the next day. Sarah stayed by his side the whole time. She cleaned his wound, fed him small bits of food, and even sang softly in her language songs of the stars and safe homes. Things long gone. Sometimes he smiled, sometimes he cried, but he never let go of her hand. That evening, the fever finally broke. His eyes opened fully, clearer this time. You stayed, he whispered. Sarah nodded, brushing hair from his face. I'll stay, she said. She looked at him differently now, not as a stranger or a savior, but as something more. The man who took the arrow meant for her child, the man who didn't run. Outside the cave, wind moved through the trees, but inside, something stronger grew. A bond sealed in blood, a love born in fire, and a promise neither had to speak. They had already lived it. Asterisk, it was the sound of her voice that woke him. Not loud, not urgent, just a whisper. Soft, warm, real. You stayed alive. Thank the stars. Cole's eyes opened slowly. The cave ceiling. Above him was dark, but glowing moss on the stone gave off a soft green light. His head throbbed, and his shoulder ached like fire, but he was alive. Sarah sat beside him, her baby asleep against her chest. Her eyes were tired, but her expression had changed. No longer guarded now. She looked at him with something else, something. Gentle. You were out for 2 days, she said. Cole blinked. 2? She nodded. I thought you might leave me too. He frowned. I don't leave people behind. I know that now, she whispered. She helped him sit up, slowly, placing her hand behind his back. He groaned from the pain, but didn't pull away. Her touch was steady, not shaking anymore. You saved my child, she said quietly. No one's ever done that. Not even my own kind. Cole looked at Nira, her small chest rising and falling as she slept. She's a fighter, he said, like her mother. Sarah smiled, a rare, real smile. She gets it from both of us now. For a while, they sat in silence, the fire crackling gently. Then Sarah spoke again, voice softer. My home is gone. Burned. I watched it happen. They said we were too wild, too different. My mate tried to fight them off. She looked down. He never came back. Cole's heart sank. I'm sorry. I thought I was going to die too. But I couldn't. Not with Nira still breathing. So I ran. I kept running. I never thought anyone would help me again. She looked at Cole. But then you came. Cole didn't speak right away. He shifted, wincing, and leaned against the cave wall. His hand brushed against hers. She didn't pull away. I wasn't supposed to be out here either, he said. My team was sent to patrol the borders. But when I saw what they were really doing hunting families like yours, alone? He nodded. I couldn't fight them all, but I could save one. Sarah's eyes softened. And now you've saved 2. Night deepened. The forest outside was calm. Cole glanced at her, then at Nira. I've seen a lot of pain, Sarah, he said. But I've never seen someone take an arrow and still shield their baby. She laughed quietly. I didn't have a choice. You did. You chose her. He looked down, then added, and I chose you. That silence after his words wasn't awkward. It was full of things unspoken. Things that didn't need words. Sarah leaned her head gently against his uninjured shoulder. For a long time, neither moved. The baby stirred and made a small noise. Sarah lifted her into her arms, cradling her gently. She's all I have, she said. Cole looked at them both. You have me now, too. Sarah didn't speak, but her eyes shimmered and then softly, like wind moving through leaves, she whispered, maybe this is what hope feels like. He looked at her, not as an alien, not as a burden, but as someone who had lost everything and still chose to love. That night, they didn't sleep far apart, not out of fear, but out of something deeper, something beginning to grow, not forced, not rushed, but real. The rain came softly in the morning. No storm, no thunder. Just a quiet drizzle, washing the leaves and cleaning the air. Sarah stood near the edge of the cave, watching it fall. She held Nira close to her chest, wrapped in warm cloth. The child giggled at the sound of droplets on stone. Behind them, Cole slowly woke, stretching with a groan. His shoulder still hurt, but the fever was gone. He was stronger now because he had something to live for. Sarah turned and smiled at him. It wasn't the smile of someone scared. It was the smile of someone finally safe. They didn't speak much that morning. There was no need. Cole packed their things slowly, carefully. Sarah helped. They were quiet, but every motion between them was soft, like they understood each other without needing words. When they were ready to leave, Sarah looked back at the cave one last time. This place saved us, she said. Cole nodded. But it's not home. She looked up at him. Do we have a home now? He reached out, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. Wherever you are. That's home for me. They traveled together for days, deeper into the green valleys of the outer forest places untouched by war. Cole led them to a hidden place he once marked on a map long ago. It was quiet, rich with water and soil, surrounded by cliffs and trees. Too thick for machines to cross. They built a small shelter. It wasn't perfect. It didn't have walls of steel or glowing lights, but it had warmth, safety, laughter. Cole repaired old solar panels and powered a small heater. Sarah gathered fruits she recognized from her childhood. Nira took her first steps in that valley, walking between her mother's legs and Cole's waiting arms. They laughed together that day, laughed without fear. One night, under a star-filled sky, Cole sat by the fire with Nira in his lap. Sarah leaned against his side, resting her head on his shoulder. You never asked what I was before, she said. Cole smiled. Does it matter? I was a language archivist, a historian. He raised an eyebrow. You were a bookworm? I still am, she said, laughing softly. And you? Soldier, farmer, coward, then wanderer. Sarah shook her head. You're none of those now. She looked up at him. You're her father. Cole's breath caught. You mean that? Sarah nodded. You saved her. You stayed. You gave us more than food and protection. You gave us a future. He didn't know what to say. So he held them both tighter. Days turned into weeks. Seasons began to shift. The war outside raged on, but it felt like a different world now. Sarah taught Cole her language. Cole taught her how to grow earth plants. In alien soil. And Nira? She grew stronger, smarter, and every night she curled between them, safe in their warmth. One evening, as twilight painted the sky, Sarah sat beside Cole and whispered, When I first saw you, I thought it was the end. He looked at her, eyes full. And now? He asked. She smiled. I know it was the beginning. There was no grand city, no parade, no rescue ships. Just a mother, a child, a human, and a love built in the ashes of fear. It wasn't loud. It wasn't fast. But it was strong. And it was theirs. Because sometimes the most powerful story isn't about the war. It's about who you carry out of it. The end. Asterisk.